Hey there everyone and welcome to another Near Monsters video. In this video we're looking at the top 10 mythics. Now this is mythics rather than PvP mythics because it's actually PvE and PvP combined. Basically it's very similar, the same kind of monsters. There's only a few monsters which are like I want to mention for PvE, so I decided to just... This is top 10 PvP mythics and then with a few PvE mythics first. Now with that I also have some honourable mentions, so this is a long video. I hope you do stick with this and watch it all the way through. In terms of the mythics in this video, this pretty much covers the majority of the ones which, if you're going to like try and go for the best mythics, it should be in this video. There are some which are not in this video, but like this is the majority of the really strong mythics that you might want to go for. And in fact 9 of the 18 which we're looking at in this video are actually tier 1 in second form, meaning that the second form is kind of does a good representation of the what the final form does, and so it's actually really strong just in the second form. So if you want to know which mythics to go for, this is the video to really have a look at that. So with that said, like I said in my previous video, I do the tier list on the forum, and so this is basically just going to be the ones from the forum. So as you can see here at the PvP, here's the PvP tier list, and the 10 I'm going to be going through are going to be from the S plus and S. There'll be some honourable mentions from other ones, but like basically it's going to be those. And as you can see, there's 11 there in the S plus and S, so there'll be one that I'm missing out from it, and I'm covering the other 10. Like I said, for PvE, it's very similar, so I'm not going to be going through all these, but you can see there's quite a few of the same monsters in S plus and S, and I'm just going to mention some of those S plus ones which aren't in the PvP tier list first. I also want to mention before going into this that I almost never say on my channel, but like the majority of you that watch my videos are not subscribed to my channel, and if you want to see my content, if you like this video and the other videos which you see, I would really appreciate it if you do subscribe. There's probably a lot more stuff which you miss that you would quite enjoy. I don't spam videos massively. I do a mixture of like videos like this, some guide type stuff, and some other like PvP gameplay and that kind of thing. So if that interests you, then subscribe and check out my other videos. Anyway, with that said, let's go in with the PvE mentions. So to start off with, we have Brynhilda. Brynhilda is a personal favourite of mine, if you didn't know already. I love this one. I think it's really strong for PvE. It's basically the best monster you can get for Island Challenge, and the main thing about it is that it has this secret skill Ragnarok, so it can sacrifice itself to kill an enemy and then revive itself at the back of the team. You can do certain combos with this, with like the Stun Revenge cloners, anything that wants to be healed repeatedly, because when Brynhilda enters, she heals the team. So at the back of your team you can have something which then, you know, she'll repeatedly be healing it, which can work out really well. She's got Revival that's very strong. Pardon sometimes comes up to be very powerful. It's basically a Purify All that also resets kills. So if you're not using blood moves, you can reset the blood moves of the enemies without any disadvantage to your team. Double Dark Bane also, great damage. So there's a lot of really powerful stuff here. She's also good in PvP, but not, you know, not brilliant. She's more of a PvE monster. And yeah, just insanely powerful. Definitely a great one for PvE. The next one's Karina. So Karina here, she has really fast sweeping, and she's good in PvP, but is a little bit clunky. It's noteworthy that in her second form, she's actually really, really good as well. She's pretty much as good, just doesn't have like the piercing side, I think. But anyway, so this is really fast, and she flips her health every time she takes an attack. Does an attack, which, where that goes really strong in PvE, I think, like, I haven't been able to test her out loads myself, but theory crafting, if you would put her down to 1 HP and then she'd be killed off by an attack, well then just skip, basically. Skip until you can attack. If she gets put down to hold ground, then you can attack and flip her back up to full HP. She's, I can imagine, very hard for the opponent to deal with. Like, poison and piercing obviously does the job, but you can deal with that, you can kill them off. She has piercing, she can hit around protectors, she's always got fast strike as like a one-shot move, so she can always kill what she wants, so she can kind of remove the monsters which are a problem for her and keep herself alive crazily well. Just a little bit of support will help her do her thing. You can't always be attacking, because if she ends up on 4 HP and then, you know, you put her to 1 HP and she'd be attacked and killed, you can't really attack at that point, but I can see her working just beautifully. and being a crazy sweeper with minimal support. So yeah, great monster for PvE. Mention number 3 is Cyberith. Cyberith, this one is not immediately obvious, but it basically comes down to the AI does not handle Overwatch well, or just the duel effect in general. So Cyberith has good speed, and it does duel, which pushes back everything by 300 seconds and puts Overwatch on them. And then what the AI tends to do is just kind of hit them, so pulls them back into combat. Depends on what the enemy is, whether it's like an enemy that likes to just do hit all, or whether it's one that likes to hit single targets. But ultimately, the AI just kind of hits them and brings them back into combat, so you've pushed 3 of the enemies out of play, while yours just come back into play. Or if the opponent doesn't hit them, the AI doesn't hit them, then you've probably built around it so they're like things that benefit from time passing. So you can do like death sentence stuff. I think if you have Soul Stealer +9 and Cyberith, you put the like first turn move speed down to +0, then you can do death sentence all followed by duel like 1 or 2 seconds afterwards, which then means that all the enemies die to the death sentence. Yeah, you can handle the Overwatch really easily. This is like the most reliable way for passing 300 seconds for survivor moves, Mega Bomb, all that kind of stuff, which is a kind of PvE strategy. Like that's definitely something you can build around, and Cyberith just does the job so well because the AI doesn't handle it. On top of the fact that they get brought into combat, and this can be a sweeper as well. So it's very strong. It just works really nicely in PvE. And you can build around in PvP to do stuff as well. It's just not quite as crazy there. Next we have Azida. Now this is not one which I have in S+. I actually put it in S for general. But I know a lot of people love it. I think of all the mythics in the game, like this one gets picked most as like a friend monster, because I think newer players just look at this and just find it overpowered. So I'd assume it's really strong in like the early stages of PvE. So what this does is use it with the dragon, and then it gets a attack and defense boost. The attack buff, like, don't worry about that too much. Basically, it becomes quite tanky when you use it with a dragon. There are loads of dragons in the game that it's really easy to do that. Loads of dragons are like the earlier monsters like super epics and stuff. So for newer players, it's very good there. Very easy to get that defense buff. And then it uses the move Fatal Chant. Fatal Chant one-shots very easily when she has the attack buff. Even, buff targets I'm meaning here. And it heals her, and then every time she gets a kill, she gets a shield. So what you're looking at here is like, periodically she's killing an enemy, healing herself up, and shielding herself, which makes her a nightmare to kill. And then after she's got 3 kills, she can bloodshed, which is just like a faster sweeping move. And again, she gets shields when she gets kills. So I can see how this looks really good. It's definitely a good sweeper in practice, and one of the best PvE monsters. But it's nothing too crazy, and it's not like super versatile, which is why I have it more kind of like average for PvP. And I would say that the other monsters that we looked at before, those 3 mentions before, they all do like kind of crazy effects, or you have like Karina with like the really fast sweeping. And Azida doesn't have stupidly fast sweeping. She has bloodshed, which is great, and obviously the shields are great, but I don't think she's quite on the same level as like some of those like top things. So yeah. That's my opinion on her, but definitely worth a mention, and one of the best PvE mythics in the game. So now we move into the actual list with number 10. So now we're talking only PvP. Some of these monsters are great in PvE as well, but mostly PvP. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, lots of these monsters you'll see a tier 1 second form. If you don't know what this means, tier 1 is like the second form is kind of as good as the final form. It's a little bit weaker, but like it kind of does what the final form's doing, and to an almost similar level. Tier 2 second form is like, it works, but it's not as strong as the final form, like significantly weaker. Tier 3 is like, the second form is just rubbish. It doesn't work properly. So anyway, Lyra here, this is a bit of a horrible monster to face. What this does is when it enters, it passes 80 seconds, so it effectively has Roaring Entrance. It gets a turn in about 5 seconds, and then the main thing about it is it will use Mermaid's Hex to kill an enemy of your choice and replace it with a Protector that's pretty useless. And then you can turn it into permanent dead weight by like repulsing it after it uses Protect. It's completely stunnable and stuff. It will block raw monsters. So really, really harsh with that. Now, you can't use Lyra for that use in 5th position, you have to use her a little bit further back. She passes 80 seconds, but she needs 200 seconds to pass for Mermaid's Hex. So you either use her like in the mid-game, or use her in the 5th position and plan to use Swap for Helper on herself to bring Narada in, and then you can maybe try and pass the time to use Sleep Bomb with Narada for like some kind of combo there. So there's different ways you can use her. You can also use her planning to do the Swap for Helper to get multiple entrances, to pass a load of time to get to Survivor. Not sure really if people are going to do that in PvP, but it's definitely a PvE thing. But yeah, what she mainly gets used for is like setting up a stun lock, because you can remove the stun protection, and rather than like bringing in the next monster, you put a monster on the battlefield which you know is not going to be a problem. So she's very effective for setting up that stun lock. And that's basically how she's used. The two other moves are like random damage moves. She's not the best on the battlefield, so what people will usually do is use her for that Mermaid's Hex and then kind of kill her off. She's great for kind of like turning around a battle into where you've locked out the opponent because they've got raw monsters. Yeah, that's what she's used for. Very powerful. She could be considered a little bit stronger, but you know, like we say, on this list, I had to put them in some kind of order. You'll see me be a bit iffy about some of the later monsters on this list that I'm like, are they worthy of like second, third? It's hard to say where exactly to put a monster like Lyra, but she's definitely very powerful in PvP. At number 9, we have Lemon. So Lemon is another monster which is kind of like a controlling combo type thing. You use her in the end game, you can't use her in the front line because her entrance requires 250 seconds to pass. But what it does is it puts everything to sleep other than her, which is kind of crazy. The thing is, I think that's slightly easy to overrate, and some people might want Lemon to be like, you know, higher than number 9 here, and I don't even have her at S+ in PvP. Reason is, she gets blocked a bit by camouflage monsters. She also struggles against sleep immune, against poison, so there's a lot of stuff out there which actually does handle her reasonably well. But that said, it's very easy to build around her. Bundle Blazer is a great example. It comes in, it poisons your team. You put Bundle Blazer before Lemon, Lemon then comes in, and well, your team's poisoned, so it doesn't go to sleep. So then it just put to sleep all enemies. You can also, like, you almost always with her want to have a high-speed Purify monster behind her. So if anything dies, then that comes in, purifies your team, wakes it up. Yeah, there's some other stuff you can use it with sleep immune things. Yeah, so very easy to build around in a way where you just put enemies to sleep. And, oh yeah, people also can use the, I'm trying to remember what the name of it is now, Ogre Master, that comes in, Roaring Entrance, Purify All. So they'll use that beforehand to like remove poison from enemies to kind of get around that. Yeah, there's some cool stuff you can do for a lot of sleep control, and once she enters, she's not the best monster on the battlefield. She can do more sleep stuff with Solo Potent Sleep. Double Dream Hunt is, you know, a fine sweeper move, but like I said, struggles against camouflage. So yeah, she's kind of all about that entrance really, and then does a bit of stuff when she's on the battlefield. The Slaybane All, bear in mind she's got low attack, and most people associate Slaybane All with Penguinator, which has excessive force, and that's what makes it strong. Slaybane All is not a particularly good move on Lemon. But yeah, that's Lemon. At number 8 we have Christine. Now we move to something that's a little simpler to talk about. This is a sweeper, and it's just really effective for the main reason that it has shield and camouflage. So when it enters, it's got good speed, and it's really, really hard to deal with before it gets its first turn because of the shield and camouflage. So it gets that first turn, and then it can pretty much kill whatever it wants. Ideally use this in Link Water, so it can link Sneak Attack, which hits around protectors and all the rest of it, does crazy damage. But the main move here is actually Oust, which kills the next monster to get a turn, which is really effective because that hits around protectors, it gets around shields, everything. Like, just guaranteed kill on that next monster. So often she will just Oust on her first turn, then she's got Blood Fury, she's got Link Sneak Attack to hit around stuff. You don't have to use her in Link Water because you've got that Oust to get the Blood Fury. You've also got Protector Conversion to get a kill on her, and that creates not the Stun Absorber thing, creates the Auto Protect, which may be a bit stronger depending on how you're looking about it. Having her protected there when she's camouflaged is also really quite nice. So she does a lot of good stuff, and I would say that Protector Conversion is actually really good because she's got good speed to kill off some dead weight. She's so hard to stop before her first turn, and then she can kill off a deadweight thing. That can be really useful as an addition to her being a really good sweeper. So yeah, really good sweeper. I really like her, and she's great in the second form too. At number 7 we have Arachnodiva. Now Arachnodiva is not one which I think many people would put really high, but I think there's a lot of power here which, when you actually build around her and use her, and when you're talking about top level PvP, comes into play in a big way. And so the really cool thing here is that Scapegoat and Rockoid Morph level 3 are both very fast. So Rockoid Morph is pretty much a backstab. It just happens to create a rock at the back of your team. And then Scapegoat gives you a lot of control over which monsters of yours are dying. So Arachnodiva does a great job of getting rid of any deadweight on your team, either by just removing it or making the opponent have to hit it. And then she's got this piercing retribution, which is good. It's not particularly fast, but I wouldn't focus in on that too much, because what you have here is a monster that's really hard to kill and controls what the opponent is doing. It gives you so much control over the battlefield, and then having that, guaranteed piercing kill when you want it is really, really strong on top of that. So the ultimate payback and camouflage, what I'm talking about there, very difficult to deal with. You can Scapegoat herself as well, which can come up really nicely if a camouflage protector would mess up their double hitting moves and stuff, and otherwise they have to face that ultimate payback revenge. And she can get to the Bloodlust really easily, because if you do the Rockoid Morph level 3, you kill off a teammate, that gets her 1 kill, then you Vengeance, and then you can Bloodlust. There's no problem getting kills with her at all, and she gives you control over what's going on in the battle really nicely. I really like this monster. I think it's very, very powerful and a bit underused. Probably because it's a protector and people are scared about using protectors. It also means you can't use raw monsters and stuff, but there's a lot of strength here. I really like it. At number 6 we have Gorgodrake, and this is a crazy sweeper. So we're still in S of PvP, we're not to S plus yet, but this is phenomenally powerful. It's got really good speed, which is surprising for such a crazy poison sweeper. As you can see, the moves are all really, really fast, and the main move here is the double Poison Eater. So you poison stuff beforehand. If you're using this for frontline, you need some kind of fast poison monster. But otherwise, anywhere in a poison team, this comes in, gets a turn relatively quickly, and then can just go to town, killing through the enemies. So you need auto poison with it, so it can just keep sweeping. But killing 2 enemies every 51 seconds is crazy, and it can still deal with camouflage monsters because it's got Bloodthirst, which is, single target. So yeah, just absolutely crazy sweeper. Assisted Blaze is also good damage, really good damage considering it's max attack. It is weakened a bit, it's weakened by 15%, but to be honest, if you're using it with fire monsters, it does crazy damage, which is nice to not completely rely on the double Poison Eater, if they purify the poison and stuff. The secret skill is also great because it can reduce the chance. If you've got time, you do that. Otherwise, it doesn't matter too much because the chance is still fairly low in the final form. This monster's great in the second form too, but the chance of dying is a bit higher, so you tend to just get a few turns and then it dies off. But final form, you get more turns and it does the job. So yeah, really, really good sweeper, definitely great in poison teams. Number 5 we have Bastia. Now Bastia, I've spoken about this loads in various videos, and I don't want to talk about how it's stupidly overpowered and stuff, because I think this is actually far more balanced now after some changes to it, and I want to say that the disadvantage of it first. So this is S plus in PvP, and it's one of the strongest mythics in the game, but the disadvantage of it is when you're using it in a team, the effect of the negating entrances is both sides. So you can't put entrances into your team either, which means if the opponent gets the momentum going, killing through your team, you can't stop it so easily, because normally entrances are the kind of thing that will push them back and let you retake some control. So Bastia, just inherently the way you'll build your team, even if they kill Bastia, it won't be able to come back quite so well. And then also it can be used against you because the opponent knows that's the case, but then they also know that probably you're going to have entrance monsters further back than that. So if they can get control and they can just kill through your team and ignore Bastia, then Bastia can actually work against you. So you have to bear that in mind when you build around her. So either you put her behind the entrance monsters, or what you do is you, and this is what I think people should generally do when they build around Bastia, is use her with sweepers. She is support, like full support, and you don't really want any other support monsters in your team, focused support. Maybe they have a little bit of support element in them, but like you want them generally to be sweeping, because what Bastia really supports is like high speed sweeping through the enemy team, because it stops the opponent from really getting back into the game because they don't get the entrances. So I think that's really where Bastia stands out, is using her with like a lot of sweepers, a lot of high speed sweeping, that kind of stuff. And Bastia herself, really tanky, stupidly hard to kill. When she gets a turn as well, she can like heal, purify, and shield your whole team. Like crazy support, and negating the entrances is the big deal. Like I said, already stops them from really coming back into the battle. The knockback random's pretty nice. It's a slightly faster knockback, but generally she's just going to keep your team alive very nicely. Things with hold ground she supports a bit better, and then disrupting the enemy she does a good job of. So she's not like unbelievably broken, but she offers great support and really stops the opponent from getting back into the game. At number 4 we have Honourable. Now this is a personal favourite of mine. This may fly under the radar a little bit because it's not like a big flashy sweeper, but it's a very, very effective sweeper. So if you don't have the secret skill on, it has no killer weaknesses. It's tanky because it's got high defense, got hold ground. It can heal itself up with repent. It counters sleep, especially because it can actually purify your teammates as long as they have kills. And the way its attacks work is it almost always has a way to one-shot an enemy, and the one you really want to go for here is second gun. So you have a kill with a teammate, and then you can just keep every 100 seconds killing an enemy with second gun. It's just a very effective sweeper that works really well in 1-on-1. Don't underrate this. This is definitely one of the best monsters for PvP. You can see it's good in PvE as well. That's mainly in 1-on-1. The second form is great too. It's just a really, really effective monster that does the job a lot better than you'd expect, even though it doesn't have like these big flashy elements or like a powerful passive. It just sweeps nicely, keeps the team alive, and protects it from sleep and stuff. So yeah, great job at all that stuff. Number 3 we have Sakura-Lisk. Now this is a big flashy monster, easy to maybe overrate. So let's talk briefly first about how the downsides of this, where it doesn't do well, and that is the moveset doesn't do a great job of charging double bloodthirst. This monster can get a bit stuck not doing a whole lot, because trying to charge that, there's no quick way of doing it. But that's kind of has to be the case, because the passives are so powerful. Having stun counter and good defense makes it really good stun protection. Dreamworld is borderline broken, putting enemies to sleep, and this is fairly slow, but when it gets a turn, it can put anything it wants to sleep, even around protectors. So what generally happens is it's like the top priority target as soon as it hits the battlefield, because if it sits on the battlefield for any length of time, you'll pretty much win the game. Puts the monster to sleep when it gets a turn, and then it can like double repulse to try and chance two things going to sleep as they enter. You can double repulse first if you need that, but like it kind of helps you get control with those first 2 turns. You may want to save the double repulse, but then after that it struggles to get kills, and so you really have to try and line up kills for it, or maybe you'll dream crush something that's asleep, because maybe you've got multiple things asleep. If you use Sakura-Lisk with other sleep stuff, it works really nicely, because then you can dream crush to get those kills and then get to the double bloodthirst. But ultimately I'd say don't focus too much on trying to make it a sweeper. What this does is it just passively helps by being in the battlefield and putting one enemy to sleep and having that double repulse to do at some point is kind of enough to really help out in the battle. And just don't think of it as a sweeper, I'd say. Think of it as that support and control stuff. And number 2, we have Suikenshi. Now Suikenshi is not super flashy like the Honourable sweeper. This can die fairly easily, and maybe this will be outclassed in the long run with like other mythic sweepers that do things better, but it's just so effective at what it does. It's got decent speed. Stun immunity means that it just attacks fairly frequently, and that with Dual Slayerbane is really, really good. It's got high enough attack that Dual Slayerbane just kills any legendaries you want. Mythics, it even does a good job of damaging them. The higher defense mythics, it doesn't damage super well, so maybe that's where I'm thinking, like, in the long run, maybe it won't do an amazing job, and then other things will surpass it. But that's just me being hesitant, because I'm like, I had to put these in some kind of order, and I think Suikenshi is really up there, but maybe it could be lower than other ones. It's hard to say. But yeah, that Dual Slayerbane is the main damage move. Just reliably doing that with focus as well makes it really nice, because you can hit whatever you want with the Dual Slayerbane. Focus with Stealth Pick as well counters those things where they're putting camouflage behind a protector, and you can use combos with it with Jaguardian. A lot of people do that, where they do haze and then they can stealth break whatever they want. And it only needs one kill to solo Blood Fury. So just really, really effective sweeper that can die reasonably easily, but if it's ignored, then they just kind of lose, because it so consistently kills things at like regular set. You know, we're looking at 100 seconds moves here, really. 100 and 110 are the main moves. You don't really use the secret skill at all. That's like, if you absolutely have to knock something back, you do that. But it just kills things too regularly that it wins battles if it's not dealt with. And like a lot of sweepers, it doesn't have any killer weaknesses. So while it's got low defense, sometimes it's not actually that easy to kill. So before we move to number 1, it's time for the honourable mentions. First one is Aetherian. If you don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of this monster. You can see on the tier list, I've got it as like B and A. Basically, this is really good stun protection. It stops all stun on the battlefield, and it's tanky. And so it does the job of stun protection better than basically any other monster in the game. However, the moveset is not that great, because Metempsychosis is basically a weaker repulse. Time Warp is kind of useful, and the other moves are like, they don't do that much. So this doesn't do a whole lot on the battlefield. People overrate the Metempsychosis mastery. They're like, oh my god, you can just repeat it. But honestly, it's not that great. Like, compared to what the monsters do, they do way more than Aetherian. It's just tanky stun protection. So I have it rated fairly low. However, it is an honourable mention. I know a lot of people love it. I just think it will be outclassed in the long run, as like we look to other monsters for stun protection, or just other mythics come out that are really good stun protection. I don't think it's really going to stay up there. Honourable mention number 2 is Satomi. So this one is one that maybe people wouldn't know why I'm rating it so highly. It just is a really effective sweeper. The defense, hold ground, instant shield ally means that it's actually quite hard to kill. Stun immunity gives it the regularity, and then you've got Secret Destroyer, which one-shots most things at like 100 seconds. It can kind of do piercing sometimes with a shield breaker, you know, depending. It only needs one kill for the Blood Fury, so it's just going to sweep nicely, consistently, kind of hard to kill. And the reason why I like it so much is the knockback next. So once you've got control in your sweeping or whatever you're doing it, knockback next is one of those moves that just works really, really well for you to maintain that control. And that's especially good in PvE, I think, where you can like kind of make things line up better. But even in PvP, I think it works really well for just having that efficient knockback next on other things. Knockback next on most monsters 160 seconds. This is only 100, which makes it far more usable than on other monsters. And yeah, having that extra utility on top of a decent sweeper, I think is really good. So that's Satomi. Honourable mention number 3 is Grimoris. This is one which I know a lot of people really rate high. I have S- in PvP. I don't think it's that broken or insane. It's definitely very good with its high speed. Comes in, puts an enemy monster to sleep, and then it can use Quell to put enemies that have kills to sleep. You can take control with sleep beautifully with this, and it's really hard to kill because it's got that good defense, high speed, hold ground. Like, how do you stop that from really doing its thing when it enters? The thing about it, though, is the rest of the moveset's a bit clunky. It's fine, but just not on the same level as other monsters. And Quell is very liable to getting countered. Poison, sleep immunity, things not having kills. I mean, sure, you can wait for them to have a kill and then you can quell it, but like, it gets countered by things, Protectors too, and Purify is so bad, so strong against Quell, because you can only do it once on an enemy. So like, you put them to sleep with Quell, and then they get purified, and then what can Grimoris do? If there's a Purify in the enemy team, Grimoris is just kind of like stuck and unable to do anything. I think Grimoris is actually a lot more balanced than she looks, where when she doesn't come up against her counters, she can feel very strong, but against her counters, she can get very, very stuck. So yeah, definitely a strong monster though, and worthy in either list, PvE or PvP. Next we have Exocross. So this is what I think is maybe one of the best sweepers. However, it's recently been buffed like 3 times, so we haven't seen it in practice, and I don't want to like jump into saying it's insane before we've really seen it, and it's hard to rate because it's, it's recent stuff. So I've got it in here as an honourable mention. Maybe it's worthy of the top 10. I think this is very strong for the fact that it is, it's very hard to kill. It's got immunity to poison, half immunity to stun, so, decent passives there, and it sets up, when it enters, this Cornered Exterminate, which can bypass Protectors and kill anything you want. And I would say, in most cases, probably, you can just repeatedly use that. So every 70 seconds you just kill an enemy. You've also got Shield Backbite, which kills off dead weight to fully heal this and shield it, which is nasty considering how tanky it is. And that also gets a kill towards Double Bloodlust. So I think this is like a seriously good sweeper that has some flexibility to it, and is actually quite hard to deal with. But like I said, it's a recent type thing, so I don't know whether it's on the same level as some of these other monsters in this video. So now we go to number 1, the last monster we're going to talk about in this video. If you're still with me, then thank you. This is a long one, I know. So Cynthia, this just does it all. This is crazy. Some of those earlier monsters, I was a bit iffy about where to put them in the tier list, and we talked about 18 monsters today. Which of them are meant to be in the top 10? And which not. It's hard to say, and this is all just me trying to give you an example of the best monsters in the game and trying to put them in some order. Cynthia, though, is definitely number 1 for PvP. This monster is crazy. It recently got a tiny nerf to Quick Draw, making it a bit slower, but this does so much. So what it does is, if you can get some momentum going, if you can get control, then Quick Draw can become your win condition, as it just really quickly sweeps through enemies. If you've got it with auto poison, then even better, because that it's effectively like piercing, because it gets rid of any shield on the entrance. It deals with whole ground as well, so she can sweep crazily like that. She's also got the fail case of double retribution. So one thing about Quick Draw is it can't kill other monsters, so you can sometimes be a bit restricted in what you can kill, but double retribution doesn't have that restriction, and it's decent enough damage that it kills most things. Certainly in the case of legendaries, it kills legendaries. So yeah, that's a decent enough fail case. And then she protects your team from sleep beautifully, because she's sleep immune and has instant purify all. Also a little bit of protection from poison there. So put her with stun protection, put her with maybe auto poison, put her with some of the other broken stuff that we've seen in this, like Bastia, or trying to think, I was going to say Securalisk, but then maybe that opens up to killer weaknesses. I don't know. Anyway, basically you put her with other strong monsters and she just does insanely well, because she suits the enemy team, she can protect you from sleep, she can double repulse to mess up what they're doing, got the fail case of double retribution, and no killer weaknesses, and she's tanky. Oh, and on top of all of that, you can use her in 1-on-1 combos, because she's not Insomnia, she's sleep immune, so you can actually create this crazy front line with Don Rilla and Cynthia, and you just need something else to get a kill or whatever, and then you can just go through the enemy team while they've got sleeping enemies, sleeping monsters. So yeah, Cynthia's just a bit crazy. They went way too hard last anniversary, where they brought out Cynthia and Padronorka, which, if you watch my top 10 PvP legendaries, Padronorka's number 2, and we've got Cynthia here number 1. That was a crazy egg with ridiculously powerful new monsters. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and yeah, the top mythics in the game, we went through 18. This was a long video. There's some other ones which I missed, which I can't talk about all of them, but this covers most of the really strong mythics in the game. The next video I'm going to be making is talking about the top 10 PvE legendaries, which is going to be a really good fun one for me, because a lot of focus goes on PvP. I really love the PvE content, and we're going to be talking about some of my favourite monsters in the game in that next video. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in a video soon.